Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to The Lobby, GameSpot's weekly video game hangout here in San Francisco, California. I'm your host, as always, Mike Mahardy, here with Peter Brown.
I'm always Peter Brown as well.
Rob Hanley.
That's me.
Callie Plagge.
Me.
What's up? We got one more week before we head down to Los Angeles for Electronic Triple.
Big ass game announcements.
Yeah.
Much excitement.
Yeah, we are putting up, well, for starters, next week we are going to be doing a lobby, and we'll have all of our UK crew and Australia crew in town. So we're going to try to get them on the lobby as much as possible. We're just going to do a pre-E3, kind of like what we all individually want show. We also have a lot of features going up later this week or next week.
Starting Friday all the way through the next Friday, so one whole week.
Yeah, we'll have pre-press conference primers, kind of like what we know will be at the show for Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, as well as EA, Bethesda, Ubisoft, and then editorial team is also working on a lot of write-ups for that. So for the next week, of course, as we lead up to E3, we will have a ton of coverage on that. But we'll get into the show. As always, we have a giveaway today. I don't have it here to show, but it's a Razer Blade 14-inch gaming laptop.
This is actually a big deal.
Yeah, it's a really nice laptop.
Yeah.
Real good.
Do you know how much these run for?
A couple $1,000s.
Yeah, does it have a 1080 in it? I'm assuming.
I don't know.
Some sort of.
Razer's pretty good about keeping their stuff up to date, and I really do like the form factor of these things.
Cool.
I'd like to have one.
Yeah.
As always, Shiva, who runs our Twitter account, she will be tweeting the giveaway tweet from GameSpot's account. If you don't follow us on Twitter, go do so, and then retweet that specific tweet. We're doing it a little differently this week. Rather than later on this week announce the winner, we're going to pick at random. We'll announce it on next week's lobby, or at least around next week's lobby. So you have a whole week because it's such a big giveaway, you have a whole week to try to get your retweet in, and then we'll pick a random winner, and hopefully it's you. Some news. Peter Brown, Friday the 13th, experiencing some server issues. Is that still the case today? This was yesterday when I wrote these notes.
Oof. We're having a lot of issues with that game.
Yeah.
So the PC version is currently pretty stable. I'm getting into a lot of matches with high, pings with other players, but yeah,
No server issues there.
That's the
Right.
status of the server issues.
And server issues aside, this game has a lot of bugs. I've been in more than a few matches where people have figured out a way to fly and are currently glitching their way from death, which, as Jason, makes it impossible to win.
Okay.
And there's a lot of other just minor issues and stuff like that. But on consoles, this game is essentially unplayable unless you're getting into private matches. Okay. Quick matches are, at least as of last night, I haven't checked today, but as of last night, quick matches were not possible on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. The developers are working, as they put it, around the clock. And they're sort of beholden to Sony and Microsoft's patching and release system schedule, which I think Microsoft's is supposed to be today, but Sony was supposed to be yesterday, and I didn't see that pushed. Okay. So we'll have to see. Kind of a bummer. This game is essentially an early access game. You just wouldn't know it because they're not calling it that, like on any storefront, and it's $40. A lot of fun playing it with you guys. Mm-hmm. Playing with strangers, kind of boring.
I mean, yeah, for the most part, yeah. As long as you have a mic, that's key, right?
I got a mic right here.
Thanks. To go back to the pricing quickly, you said later on there's going to be a boxed version that's a full $60.
Yeah, physical version's going to be $60, and when the devs are asked why, they said, well, we're passing the savings along to our most passionate fans who are going to download the game. I don't know what the hell they mean by passing on the savings. That doesn't really make any sense, frankly. They're just going to be charging more for the physical version. That's the only way to talk about this.
All right.
50% markup.
Because of these issues, we are holding the full review. You still have your review in progress up?
Yeah, by the end of the week, I'll have my full review because I at least want to. I at least want to test it on
Rock the Baby.
This was
Jesus
good, yeah.
Oh my god.
Nick Margarita got
and
out
that
of
was
a-
only so Nick didn't see that. That was him playing, but I think that was Aaron spectating had that glitch where he was still in a car position.
Yeah, that's what the kids call it. This game has a lot of problems.
It's my favorite. That's number 12 in the Kama Sutra.
Yeah. So we're keeping the conversation going around this game, but when a game like this is really multiplayer focused, we're trying to give it a week after launch to get itself together. But yeah, if this doesn't work on PS4 or Xbox One, the score is going to have to reflect that.
Driving off without everybody.
Yeah, we have some pretty funny gameplay up on GameSpot. We have some archived Twitch streams as well, right? These are all archived Twitch streams, I believe.
If you've got a PC and you've got 7 friends to play with, I would absolutely. Well, actually, I don't know. That's a lot of money to spend on this game. That's
I would not recommend
$280 worth of game.
You could
Never mind.
just wait. There's so many other multiplayer games. Also, they all look like Sims.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. It's a shame. I don't know. I've been like this past weekend. I watched a bunch of the Friday the 13th movies.
They're good. They're fun to watch.
Yeah, I like them.
We have to drop again another video, but it's really great. Is Chastity put together a compilation of the executions or kills with actual
real life murder
from the movies, and it's fun to see like the
Chastity killed real people.
That's right
For the video.
Yeah.
So, like the head punch off where he just punches this dude's head in the movie and it rolls down a
Jason Takes
roof.
Manhattan, I believe.
I'm not familiar with the movies.
I think it's Jason Takes Manhattan.
Also, that's the second time today someone's confused me with Chastity.
That's right. I did it earlier.
Speaking of reviews in progress, we will get to Pete's Tekken 7 review in progress is up. We will get to that later in the show.
I can't seem to write a full review to save my life these days.
So half-ass Pete will have some Tekken 7 stuff to cover later on in this show.
I only have one butt cheek.
Square Enix announced a new RPG, Lost Sphear.
Yeah, it looks just like I Am Setsuna.
Yeah, it's Tokyo RPG Factory, the developer of I Am Setsuna, and it's announced for Switch, PS4, and PC.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through this horrible? Is it a pun? The name Lost Sphear? It's like spear, but with an H after the P.
It really
is that a pun
annoys
or is
me.
that just translation problems?
No, not translation problems.
Hate it.
It's a Japanese name.
Yeah.
Using English. I mean they don't necessarily have the best grasp of the language.
358/2 Setsuna.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, I can't recall the story at hand, but honestly, like I Am Setsuna was a good game that was just maybe a little bit too derivative for its own good. So I hope that this sort of strikes its own, establishes its own themes and tries to not just be like Chrono Trigger with a slightly new story inspired by other games. I'm excited for this.
Chrono Trigger, I Am Setsuna is kind of derivative of Chrono Trigger.
So the music, the combat, not necessarily the story, but like everything else other than the story.
It shares a lot with Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I've never played I Am Setsuna, but Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games.
You can actually, so I Am Setsuna is available on Switch.
I have to play Final Fantasy Tactics first.
Yeah, jerk.
You tell me every week. What's the best platform to play it on?
I'm not telling you again.
Yeah. And then in other news, Titanfall 2's Monarch's Reign update is now live as of yesterday on PC, PS4. I'm assuming Xbox One is up.
the big three.
Yeah. Rob, that was your game of the year last year, Titanfall 2, and you and I have been...
Damn right.
We streamed it every time there's new DLC, except for this week. We're not doing too many streams as we prep for E3.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do this week, so we had to hold all of our live streams, which is a bummer because I think this is a significant update.
Yeah.
It's one of the best ones, and again, free.
So let's get into it. It's the first time it's a new Titan. So there's the original 6 in Titanfall 2, if you're not familiar, and Monarch is the new one right here. It's a Vanguard Titan, a little closer to BT, who you used during the campaign. So broad strokes, what's this Titan's deal? What's its kind of MO?
It's a really fascinating, and I think I'm glad they did something like this, opposed to just one of what you would imagine to be now the more basic Titans with like just a little bit of customization. There is a lot going on with this Titan. You can really diversify your play style. There's been a lot of comparisons to Titanfall 2 compared to the first one of having a lot of MOBA / fighting game influence with its Titans. And here it's like in full swing where you can customize this Monarch Titan to be a very support heavy, have a very support heavy role for like, the new mode Titan Brawl or like Last Titan Standing, right? Where you can, one of the abilities Monarch has is it's called Energy Siphon. So it's basically one of its core abilities where you can shoot another Titan and pull on its shield, incorporating into your own shield. And then one of the abilities that you can customize is you can then give it back to another Titan on your team.
Damn.
It's crazy, but the main thing, and as with every Titan, is you have your core ability that you see there in the bottom left that you are tickering up to then use. But this one is so unique where you have 3 customizable stages, and this is where the Titan gets fascinating. And I find it so much fun to play because you're constantly learning and developing and customizing different aspects to like cater to like one type of move. Where when I hit my upgrade core right there, you see in the bottom, now I have, for instance, one of 3 abilities. And the first one is a beefed up main weapon, or there's so many different ones, or something that is one of the other abilities will allow me to recharge my weapons quicker, so I can do that. Essentially, when you drop as Monarch, you want to hold back and get to your stage 3 core ability, and then you are running like supreme around the map. And
what were you gonna say? Just say whatever.
Havoc.
But it's very much. It's very much.
It's a slow burn.
Like you said, it's that MOBA class.
Right.
It's kind of like a hero you don't want to let this hero get a lot of creeps on the map, so then they upgrade. But yeah, this is the kind of manifestation of the MOBA influences, because like you said, when you land, it's more of a survivor class until later on if you upgrade all the way. But the conversely, everybody sees a Monarch. They're going to say we should take that out before it upgrades all the way.
Right.
So it's kind of a target for sure.
Yeah. Currently, everyone is a Monarch.
It was like when Sombra or Ana released an Overwatch PTR stuff. Yeah.
So I'm excited, and people are back and forth with whether it's overpowered or underpowered. I still think it's pretty balanced, but obviously, this game is always listening to its community, and it's always balancing down the road. So I'm excited to see when things kind of simmer down and there's more 1v1 moments in a time where you're up against a North Star or you're up against a Legion, and you're again playing very differently depending on that said Titan.
Little GameSpot Easter egg, if you've been a fan of GameSpot for a long time, Mary Kish, they actually put her PlayStation tag on the gun.
Yeah.
Next time.
No, it's
her.
It's a reach. It's a reach.
I'm joking, but everybody who's watched our streams that ever saw Mary Kish screen tag, it's like 19 numbers that she made it when she was like 18, and it still exists today. And it's a joke because on the gun it says
it's got the first 2 numbers of her MK12 whatever it is. But
anyway,
but I'm just really excited with this game once again, and this is the new map, Relic.
Okay.
From the first game, and it's just so revamped. And this is, I think, now one of the best maps the multiplayer has to offer, with just such a versatile landscape with like corridors and tons of lanes and open areas. Like it's great. They even have now Spectres with like sniper rifles. The enemy AI.
Oh shit.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of new stuff.
Spectres or Reapers?
Spectres.
Okay.
Spectres are the robots. And then Reapers are the biggest of them.
Does killing Spectres and Reapers, the AI, contribute to your upgrading your core?
So yeah, one of the abilities I had on here, the second core ability that your energy siphon that I was talking about, it gives it like an insane amount of AoE. So you can get energy from a group of Spectres, because these guys comes in waves, right? So you can just point that at the ground and get like 3 or 4 of them combined, because one isn't going to do enough. You want to use for the most part, the energy siphon on the bigger Titans, because you get more of your shield back. Okay. So it's a lot of shield management, and the idea being that you are consistently trying to keep your shield on. So the other really cool thing you can do, and everyone's doing it now, which is funny, is there's another ability where I can, when you're doomed, and whenever a Titan's in doomed state, you can engage a execution, and I'm sure everyone's seen it. It was in the trailer, but I can. I get out when I engage it. I get out. I punch you from getting out of your Titan. I get on the back of your Titan. I pull a battery. All the while, my Titan is slapping the guy again into his Titan, and then just destroying him once I get back onto mine and put the battery in. It's and that there you go. And then you have another battery automatically into your Monarch, which will then allow you to stay in. Right here.
Crush the dude.
Crush him. At the best camera work.
What happens if it attacks a Titan that's when you drop? For those who don't play it, you can have your Titan go into autopilot and just fight for you if you want to stay on your feet. Mm-hmm. But if your Titan goes to assassinate an auto Titan, it's pretty funny.
It's really funny. I saw this today on the bus was coming in. I just totally had like a laugh out loud moment. You punch into the
autopilot Titan.
The autopilot Titan, and pull out nothing because there's no pilot. And so it's like the BT look where he looks at his hand and he like cocks his head like a puppy dog, and then he's like, oh, huh. And then he just finishes off the guy.
And then he kicks the Titan.
Yeah, it's really
into
great.
oblivion.
It's pretty good.
I'm super excited.
love this
Also, a smart move by Respawn to include the new Titan Brawl mode
Yeah,
with this update, because it's the first time they've released a new Titan. So this mode is good if you want to start learning. I mean, it's good for learning any Titan, honestly. It's as opposed to
Last Titan Standing, where it's a what do you call it, like an execution based round or round based,
one
right?
life you're out, yeah. Execution, yeah.
Yeah, so then you have to wait till the next round. Here, you're just consistently... So it's basically team deathmatch, but you're only allowed to be in your Titan. Yeah, it's a great way to get familiar with Monarch, and I would also recommend, if you, again, know this game, you can sway your kit loadouts to have an increased of... you start with 30% core, and then there's another one that's unique to this one where you can... the Monarch, where you can... expedite the ticker by 10%, so you can get to those core abilities quicker.
Do you see yourself playing Monarch a lot more, or are you kind of just playing it right now to try it out?
Yeah, as you know me, I'm all about North Star. I can't get away from that Titan. But here, yeah, that's the thing is there's so much you can do with this Titan in so many different modes. I think it's perfect. I think it's something I'm consistently experimenting with, and just trying to get better at it. I just love this game so much. God damn it.
Kelly, Titanfall 2 released before you joined GameSpot, but I know you're super into shooters. Are you a fan of Titanfall 2, or have you played it much?
Yeah, I haven't played too much. I got it from my dad for Christmas, and he really liked it. So I got to play when I was still visiting my parents. So I had to stop playing when I left. But I just I always focus on how the shooting feels in an FPS, and so I really liked that aspect of Titanfall 2. So I think this is the kind of thing that I would want to jump in, because it sounds really, really interesting, and I like being able to experiment, like kind of customize your kit and like see what your role is.
Thankfully, there are no good games to play right now. So
I know.
Yeah, I have so much time. I have so much time to play games right now. So
Yeah, I sit next to Rob in the office, and I was watching him play yesterday, and just watching you jump around with the Mastiff shotgun and then getting into Monarch. It's the last thing I need is a new Titan to try out.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
I'm joking, obviously, but
yeah, it's funny to explain this because I still don't know this Titan that well. There is just so many different factors that can attribute to play style, and you're just trying to find your own little niche there. It's fun.
yeah, we will have gameplay going up. We're going to try to get more up tonight, I believe.
Yeah,
if
like
you want to
7
check
PM.
that out. But I mean, if you have Titanfall 2 on any platform, you can go download this update right now. It's live.
Yeah, and there's also this is the one component of like Titanfall where you would pay for it is like cosmetics, right? So there's Ronin Prime and Tone Prime, the new
elite
skins.
looking versions. You have to either be level 20 in the game in your current generation, or pay 200 credits to unlock Monarch. You kind of get screwed over if you recently regened and you're at level like 10 maybe, and you don't have a lot of credits.
Like Aaron was
Yeah.
pretty bummed. We were like, the update dropped, and I'm like, in it, and he's like, I don't have the credits.
For those who don't know, regenerating is essentially like prestiging if you're a Call of Duty player. But yeah, Aaron did that like last week. He said he's been holding out for months before we knew this was gonna come out. Like we didn't know this was gonna. The trailer went up yesterday.
That sucks.
You showed me the trailer, and then Aaron's like, "Oh, it's live on PC," and it just threw off everyone. But yeah, you kind of get screwed over. But I don't think it'll take that long. to
It
get to
does
level
not
20.
take that long. No.
Cool. I'm looking forward to playing that. We also got to play ARMS recently.
The test punch.
Yeah. You're reviewing the game. Well, we can't talk about impressions from that at all. This is strictly
This
from
is like
that
very much-
hour-long demo period from last Friday.
Last weekend. Yeah.
Okay.
Very like preliminary impressions.
So the amount of fighters we could choose from was limited, and I don't know this game well enough to even remember which fighters. I remember the DNA dude, Helix.
Obviously.
Helix? He was in it.
His name's Helix, but I call him DNA Man.
Yeah. That was the Kendrick meme that came out right after they showed the trailer. This is him right here. We got to play a little bit. I know Nick Margarita played a lot of this demo. Joey E played some of it. Rob, you and Callie both got the chance to check it out. What is this game? Because I look at it and I think fighting game sometimes, but then obviously there's a lot more nuance than that, or not more nuance than a fighting game, but it's got its own quirks to it.
It has its own spin. It's like I saw somebody compare it to like Splatoon as far as like it being technically a shooter, but being very unique spin on the genre.
Nintendo first party take on the genre.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I see
Arm
ARMS.
bending.
But basically, the main unique thing is the controls. I think it takes a little while to get used to, and so I think the demo style is not really enough to get a good feel for the game, because you kind of have to retrain your brain a little bit when it comes to the actual fighting, because as you can see, your arms are super long, and that changes the rhythm a lot. And so a big adjustment that I had to do when I first started playing was being like, how do I time this properly to really get a good hit on the opponent, more so than I would in any other fighting game I've ever played.
Tons of like side to side movement, strafing, jumping, dashing.
That was the movement as far as left to right. I found the most difficult. But what you were saying, you have to be very much reserved with everything, because I kept doing the grab, because you want to throw both punches, but that actually just ends up being a grab, and then you're vulnerable. So you want to just kind of collectively think about your swings with the motion controls.
Right, you have to balance out, am I going to protect here? Because your arm takes so long to retract that you're going to be without a guard for a little while. And there is sort of this rock, paper, scissors style where a grab will beat a block will beat a punch, and a punch will beat a grab. And so there is that element there. But I think the main thing is the controls are so weird, not in a bad way, but it just took me so long to really adjust to how am I supposed to. And the other thing is movement is mapped to the left analog stick, which is also what you use to curve a punch. So I didn't want to curve a punch, but I need to move to dodge a punch, and so that threw me off a little bit. And
this is playing with the controller.
This is playing if you're not playing with motion controls. With motion controls, it's interesting because movement is actually better.
You have to tilt.
You can tilt, but you have I think a little bit more freedom to move while punching in motion controls.
Does it feel like this game was designed from the ground up for the motion controls, to showcase the Switch?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm a big fan of the Joy-Cons and the tech that's in those tiny little controllers.
HD rumble.
I love the Joy-Cons. But so adjusting to that, I haven't really used motion controls a ton with my Switch. I think that it's actually better with motion controls, but it was harder for me also to throw those punches properly, especially when your real arm is not super long. And so you're if I'm punching.
Speak for yourself. Yeah. I get the sense of Peter Brown joke brewing.
It also was hard for me because I did martial arts for a really long time. So I'm I have an idea of how I'd want to throw a punch, and it's just not at all what I'm supposed to be doing. And so that was hard for me to adjust to. But that's a me
What kind of martial arts did you do?
I did Kempo karate.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say in most martial arts, reach is super important, right?
Right, but your stance is not like the stance.
So how realistic is arms? I was joking, but it feels good from what you played, right?
Yeah, no, I think after you get over that learning curve, it starts to feel really good. I love her. She's the ramen girl.
So isn't that robot character the only actual human character or something? Is that the lore?
I think that was in the series. Well, they had that big direct kind of stream, right?
His entrance is awesome.
Such a nerd.
Imagine him coming into an MMA fight, what's his name? McGregor is just in the ring waiting for him, and then you see DNA Man scampering up to
he wobbles. Yeah. He's so cute.
I'm not fighting this guy.
Yeah. So, I think right now initial thoughts would be once you have to get over the controls. I think that initial getting over that hump can be difficult. But be patient would be my advice for that. Yeah,
ARMS as a title makes sense to me, but I wish if this turns out to be a really fun game, I hope that just that generic name doesn't hurt it. Because for me, I heard that and I saw it during the Switch presentation. I was like, I thought they could have tried a little harder.
I thought it looked so stupid when I first saw it.
Yeah.
You have to get your hands on it, which is, I feel like that's sort of been a Nintendo thing for a little while, where sometimes it's hard to get that proof of concept.
What was that? The Wii U?
What was that called?
In terms of naming something.
Even trying Wii Sports versus just if someone described Wii Sports to you. So with ARMS, when I saw it, I was like, that looks really dumb, and I have no desire to play it. And then actually getting my hands on it, there was more to it. So
I think we'll have gameplay going up over the next couple days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we
and
have
then-
some stuff up already, which you saw, and
I think tomorrow.
there should be more tomorrow.
And then review embargo. Can you talk about that?
I don't know if we can talk.
I don't know
about
if we
Okay,
can say
well,
what it is.
So let's not
Sweet.
say a thing.
Then we won't. Cool. So that's ARMS. You can go check out, like I said, gameplay that'll be up throughout the week if you want to go to GameSpot.com or go to our YouTube channel and watch that for more on this weird take on the fighting game for the Nintendo Switch. Speaking of fighting games, Tekken 7 is coming out. Is it Tuesday?
Comes out this Friday, Mike.
Friday.
It's a weird day for a game to come out.
But that's happening increasingly more often, isn't it?
Yeah.
With a lot of
I'd
games.
love to know why.
Pray.
Does anyone know?
Sorry. Sometimes I
it's-
talk and don't know where my sentence is going, and then I just hope it ends up
Sorry.
at a place of story of my life. That was a Michael Scott quote, and I just butchered it. But what were you just saying?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, most games come out Tuesday, right? But if it's not Tuesday, I feel like Friday.
Well, Nintendo-
Nintendo
always-
does Sunday.
Yeah,
Well,
Nintendo,
forget
it
it.
does Sunday. Yeah.
But Prey was Friday. There was like 3 games were Fridays.
it
Wasn't
was.
Horizon, or am I mistaken?
No, I don't think Horizon was a Friday.
Huh. Interesting. I could have sworn there was a few
We'll
other
look
games
into
this
this. We'll get back to you.
year. Yeah, we'll investigate.
We should just do a whole segment on days games
Yeah.
come out. That'd be great.
Oh, Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th makes sense. Yeah. But Tekken 7.
Tekken 7.
Your review and progress is up on GameSpot.
Yeah.
If you want to go read more in depth. But your impressions so far.
My impression so far is that Tekken has never been a series that changes all that much, and that's very true with this one. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's not that many 3D fighting games on the market. Like, yeah, a lot of games use 3D graphics, but they're fought on a 2D plane. So among the sort of like peers that it does have, Tekken just feels like something totally different. And its fighting system has, kind of been refined over the last 22 years. And it kind of feels like it always has, but again, that's not really bad because it really is a great fighting game. So it's moved to Unreal Engine 4. This is the first time it's on modern consoles and PC, specifically PC, and it looks great. The fighting's good. They have a few new mechanics. Probably the most important of those is this thing called the I forgot the name. It's this move basically where it's a move that has a property where you have armor. So if I initiate a punch, but you hit me while I'm going to punch you, I won't stop like I would have in the past. My punch will continue.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a risk reward scenario where you're going to take a hit, but you're going to actually give a hit as well.
If someone's like a centimeter left of health, you could just get 2 quick hits in to finish them while
right,
they're
as long
doing,
as
like,
you
a
have the
huge
health
punch
to
in you.
absorb their hits. Yeah.
Okay. Like Rocky
Yeah.
4.
Yes. But so the other part of Tekken outside of the fighting is the ridiculous characters and story. This game kind of continues that tradition of telling hello.
That is weird.
Weird.
That's not us.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a weird story
Shit,
about
change
a
it.
family of martial artists who are constantly trying to kill each other, are constantly coming back to life as demons, and there's all these like different corporations involved. It doesn't really make sense. It's very difficult to follow, but that's kind of it's made that way. There's a lot of comedic stuff as well. A lot of the secondary characters are not really a part of the main story. They're treated as jokes. So you get this really nice mix of like self-serious but kind of kidding stuff and then outright comedy paired with a fighting game that's very technical but pretty accessible, I think.
Do you like the characters in terms of like their actual movesets fighting? Is there you
Yes.
feel like a good variety?
Yeah. So the last game, I want to say there were 44 characters. That has been whittled down a little bit. I think there's somewhere like 32 now.
Okay.
But that means there's less copies. You don't have as many characters that seem like, just another version of another character. But it's good. But, they all kind of fight so close together that it's not really until you play these characters that you really begin to feel their differences. I will say Akuma is now here from Street Fighter. And he plays very naturally. If you've played Street Fighter before, you know how to play Akuma. You can pretty much jump right in and pull off the moves that you want to. But, of course, you have to compete with him a little bit differently as well. It's not the same as playing in a Street Fighter game in terms of competition.
Right. So Tekken, its control conceit is that it, like each button is mapped to a limb, correct? Like
Right.
since Tekken 1.
Yes, which is why I consider this game to be pretty accessible because, unlike a game like Street Fighter where you're not really sure, like, what punches and kicks are, but here you really have this direct relationship between this is my left arm, this is my right arm. And that can help. The thing is that this game has so much depth and it does absolutely nothing to really guide you. Characters have move lists that are upwards of like 100 moves and combos that are not broken down by category in any way. You literally have to just scroll through them, which you can do by looking at the list or going into training mode and like cycling through one move after another. It's a long process, like any fighting game, to become really good in this one, but it's flashy enough and it's accessible enough that most people can jump right in. And as long as their competition is on the same level as them, have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned it's accessible in terms of controls and everything. Looking back at Injustice 2, another recent fighting game that you reviewed yourself as well and gave a 9 out of 10, would you say that this game is using that accessibility to kind of, like you said, it is introducing maybe new people to this universe, but also kind of not without sacrificing the depth of the Tekken
Well,
series?
I think the accessibility here is almost consequential.
Mm-hmm.
I think Injustice 2, NetherRealm's games in general, like they try to be accessible up front. I think just what Tekken is just inherently accessible. I don't think they're going out of their way because again, there's no real training, right? Just the literal controls are easy to wrap your head around.
Sure.
Not the actual movesets of the characters.
Okay. As you get farther into this review, how's online going right now? Have you tried much yet?
I've only had a few matches with people in Europe, and it's been spotty connections, so I can't say, which is why I'm kind of holding off on the review. Mm-hmm. This game will live and die by its online component.
Okay. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 was the last in the franchise. That was 2014.
I want to say 14.
And then Tekken 6 was when?
2008. Randolph Ramsey reviewed that one.
Shit. He's our editor-in-chief now.
Why you said that with such like anger?
Did he give it a score?
He doesn't review many games. He gave it a 8.5.
Okay.
Tekken games always score very well because they're always great and they don't need to change a lot and they never really do.
What did we give Pokken?
Pokken got a 9.
Oh, yes.
And that was from Timur Hussein.
So in your early hours, or I guess you're pretty far in now, but in your time you spent playing now is worth the wait since the last Tekken game?
Yeah, honestly. You saw me on the lobby, the weeks leading up to this, I kept like randomly saying like, also Tekken 7's coming out. Like this series is very nostalgic for me. Like it is, when I think about what it was like to own a PlayStation when those first came out, Tekken and like Ridge Racer, like these Namco games like really defined what it was to be a PlayStation owner. So it's a very special thing for me. And I just love the way that this fighting system works. The characters are just so batshit ridiculous too. It makes it fun. And there's a lot of collectible items that you can get to customize your characters. So you can make a serious jerk like Brian look like, give him butterfly wings and pink pants. I mean, you can go all out. You can have a lot of fun screwing around with these characters.
There are no stats like there are in Injustice. That's just aesthetics, right?
Right, yeah. So some of the items you equip, like in Tekken Tag 2, and I'm not sure about Tekken 6, but some of the items you equip can be used as weapons. So, like, I have a guy with a pizza on his back that he can throw across the ring. And
Nice.
Fucking sick.
Yeah. Like, I told you, this game's ridiculous. Why didn't you believe me?
Rob's going to go download this right now.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, those things, you're putting yourself at risk to use them because there's a very long wind-up. But they can change a character who doesn't have a projectile.
Well, yeah.
Give
Have
them
you
a
ever
projectile.
thrown a pizza in real life, dude? That's not something you could just sling off the wrist. You got to get ready for it.
Depends on the crust.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, if
And
it's New
whether
York
it's
style.
New York or Chicago.
Dude, if you throw a deep dish pizza at someone, they're not getting back up for a while. Did you guys did you get the chance to watch the stream we did of this last
So
week?
that was the weird double lobby set for anybody wondering,
Yeah.
where we had Mr. Naps.
Was that Richard Lee's first time on camera for GameSpot? So Richard Lee is one of our more prolific fighting game players here in the office, but he's also always behind a camera, like maybe 80% of the time if there's a video with like camera work, it's Richard Lee. But it was fun to see him on a stream. But like I said, he's also a big fighting game player, and we had, I'm so sorry, the name of the player escapes me.
Mr. Naps.
Mr. Naps, thank you very much. You just said that. The stream was pretty funny because at one point he was using one hand to fight like Ben and Tay and people.
Well,
Right, we
yeah,
saw
so-
that in the beginning of the B-roll.
Yeah, so he was playing with one hand, but also he was playing with his left hand. So movement and buttons, like he had to like completely take his hand off of the joystick.
Yeah,
in order
because he
to
was on the
hit.
right side.
It was,
Right.
Yeah, it was so cool to watch. And like Chastity's a huge Tekken fan, and she would always, when we both worked at IGN together, she would always like sweep tournaments. So it's just really funny to watch them like be like, how is he beating us with one hand? So definitely check that out.
Yeah, it's archived. You can go watch that on our YouTube and Twitch channel. Or sorry, YouTube and Twitch and GameSpot. Do either of you have interest in Tekken 7?
Not quite.
When you said pizza,
You had me at pizza.
I want to try it out for sure.
You should, yeah. It's like something I feel like people should at least play the brief little character stories just to get a sense of a game, because it looks like such a self-serious game. Like you wouldn't believe how funny it can be if you just dig into it. And it's actually not that hard to find that stuff. One of the other cool things is it has every cutscene from every Tekken game ever made in it.
what?
Yeah, which is pretty rad. So,
In their original graphics or like updated?
No, the original resolution. So, and it actually in the story mode, it'll put like if a character is thinking back to a time, it'll cut to like a low res like PlayStation 1 video. Yeah,
That's
That
really
is
awesome.
yeah.
incredible.
It doesn't take itself too seriously despite appearances. Yeah, I think Tekken's wonderful. It's one of those games that kind of gets lost behind the noise of something like Injustice and Street Fighter.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see that it's still kicking.
I know I've already kind of recommended a few videos and articles on GameSpot, but I think it was last year, Tamor Hussein in the UK interviewed Harada.
Oh yeah,
That's probably worth checking out.
Yeah.
Harada being
Harada's a character,
Harada's
Tamor is a character together.
incredible.
Yeah. For those who don't know who Harada is.
Katsuhiro Harada is sort of the lead of the Tekken series,
Yeah.
and he's an interesting guy. Always has sunglasses. Always
Always has
an opinion. Yeah.
He was at last year's Pokemon World Championship. No, I think it was in Boston. He was in the, which was 2 years ago. Just like I saw him from a distance with his sunglasses on. And he's like surrounded by women, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, there he is. It's Harada. That's how you know it's Harada.
The women.
The women and the sunglasses.
The pantheon of followers.
But yeah, he was there for Pokken. I should have.
Yeah. So the Team Tekken helped develop Pokken basically. Yeah.
To review, do you have a tentative time frame next week sometime?
I mean, yeah, we gotta get the servers to go live, and it's not just about 1v1 matches. There are these like small tournaments they've cooked up. There's a lot of things they need to test. So in a perfect world, I'll have a review ready Saturday. I have a feeling it's going to be end of day Monday, so I can play this weekend.
Cool. I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah,
I had a renewed interest in fighting games recently.
Yeah.
But for those joining, it seems like a lot of people were waiting for a Far Cry 5 talk. Now that the trailer came out, those character vignettes, we know more about it. Callie, you and Miguel Concepcion went to see it behind closed doors, like 2 weeks ago at this point?
Yes.
There's a lot to talk about. I mean, the cover art, even, we touched on the cover art on last week's episode of Lobby.
They released a zoomed out version that's like the entire table, if I am not mistaken. Maybe I dreamed that. I'm pretty sure I saw that.
You've been thinking a lot about Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
That's right.
Dream about it.
Because the zoomed out one had the guy with the sinner on his back, right?
That's in the regular art too.
Yeah. They've definitely shown the zoomed out one.
Yeah. It has just like the full table. And if you know anything about the painting in The Last Supper, it's like, oh, I wonder, wow, the guy in Judas's position is going to be a character to watch. So I was looking at that a lot. But yeah, we talked about that already. So.
But now we have the trailer and those character vignettes. We have a little bit more sense of the flavor of the game. And you actually put up a really good op-ed 2 days ago? Sunday?
Friday.
Saturday.
This Memorial Day. The Memorial Day is throwing me off so much.
It went
I'm
up
sorry.
on Saturday.
Okay. And you were talking about how the story that they have been talking about could either be like a boon for the game or it could be a huge hindrance.
Right. And so one of the biggest comments I've been getting is people saying, don't expect too much from a Far Cry game. It's not going to really be that hard hitting. And my response to that is they chose the setting, they chose the themes, and you're either going to do it well or you're going to make something really tone deaf. And I think that for it to do well, it has to really fully embrace what it's going for. And so I wrote about kind of like the history of separatist groups in the U.S. and how the government and law enforcement have responded to them, often with force. And so just kind of, because there's that parallel with Far Cry 5, it's about you're a junior deputy going into this fictional county of Hope County in Montana, and kind of using force to subdue this radical cult. And if the game doesn't address those things, I mean, this is if you were around, I wasn't alive, but the Waco siege in Texas, where over 80 people ended up dying. There's just a lot of history there that would be a misstep to ignore, I think. And I don't think it's out of bounds to expect a game that chose this setting and chose these themes to to do a good job with them. I don't think no one's making it political. It made itself political.
Right.
Yeah, and for more context, Ubisoft itself was referencing that takeover in Oregon, that wildlife refuge.
So that's basically why I wrote the piece, is because they mentioned I don't know how to pronounce it. It starts with an M, but it has like weird vowels. The wildlife refuge in Oregon, which was in 2016, so very recent. Only one person died, I think. But basically, if you heard about it, you probably know that people sent them some phallic-shaped food and gifts and a vat of lube, and that's what it was like. Yay, internet! But yeah, so they cited specifically these anti-federal government groups, these groups that have a distrust of government, and so that's kind of inspired me to write the piece, because it's like, yeah, they're religious cults, they're very, very extremist, but they are also the Ubisoft was inspired by these more moderate groups. How are you going to address those themes?
Yeah, you kind of already started to answer it, but Jean-Luc, I gave a few Twitter questions to him before. Mark M, he's a frequenter, asks questions on the lobby, but he was kind of asking, do you think that the controversy behind Far Cry 5 will help or hinder it from obtaining mass critical or commercial success? I think the game will be commercially successful regardless, but and then critically, I mean, it's up to the person who's playing it whether it succeeds in doing that. I guess that kind of leads into what you were just saying, right? Like, this could be a huge advantage for it if it seems prescient, right?
Yeah.
Regarding recent events, but it also, could be maybe a little too timely if they fuck it up.
Right. That's what I mean by tone deaf. Tone deaf, like, if you don't do it right, it's going to be really, really cringy at best. Yeah. So, critically, it's up to the person who's interpreting the game, right? Commercially, I think that it'll probably still do well. I don't really think of it as a controversy either. Like, I know there was like a change.org petition, but it looked like, I'm pretty sure that was a joke. But I don't see it super hindering the game.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very much like a direct response to Far Cry 3 and 4. In 3, you were actually like this former frat boy who got dropped into this kind of, I don't know, tropical wilderness, and then what really went into the tribal aspect of that. And I don't know, Far Cry 5 seems to be maybe a direct response to that.
Yeah, I do want to credit Ubisoft for not doing like yet another quote unquote exotic location, because I think there's problems there too. So, it's interesting and commendable to shift focus, I think. And I think America is a really, really interesting setting in general for a Far Cry game. I'm just, I'm a little hesitant about the direction, especially with that cover art, which we talked about last week. Peter and I were both very like, ooh.
Yeah, they always have that stuff with the cover art. When 4 released the cover art, when they released the cover art for 4, Pagan Min, they thought it was kind of a weird depiction of that. And then a lot of people were saying, it's a white dude holding his hand on someone else, but then a lot of other people were like, he's not white.
He's not white, yeah.
But I mean, it always seems like it seems like their covers are meant to stir things up almost, and I feel like that's why it's such a big deal when Far Cry releases a cover, and I think that's why maybe 5 started with a cover release.
I would say so too. I mean, they kind of go for the really eye-catching, to say the least, sort of cover. But you also get just to talk about some of the other stuff that was released, we get these character vignettes for some of these characters. This is the trailer we're looking at now, but
the vignettes are great.
The vignettes are interesting, and they kind of give you a look into the non-cultist members of that community, which I think is probably the most realistic take when you're seeing like, here's somebody whose father who was killed by the cults, and she's kind of taking justice into her own hands. I think all of that is interesting, and that is a good foundation for kind of an interesting look into a very real part of this country. So that intrigued me more than I think the cover art is on the extreme side.
My biggest question about this game right now is like, will you be given a choice to side with sort of one part, side of this argument or the other in terms of like who should dominate, right? Like, they better not give you the opportunity to sort of like side with the bad guys here, because I think this game is,
the fanatical Christian cultist,
right? Yeah. I mean, this game is setting itself up to, I think, maybe illustrate some of the problems that exist in our country to a degree,
right?
And to gamify it in that way, I think would totally turn me off.
Because like, three did a little bit of that, right? Toward the end.
3 and 4 had these kind of like minor choices that didn't really affect too much.
Just
I mean,
the,
like
the very ending of
of
the game.
Yeah.
It was 3 was without spoiling it was like side with this faction or this tribe. Whatnot,
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see.
This has to be a critical narrative. If it's not a critical narrative, it's going to be it's just going to piss people off, and it's going to create fighting, among communities and stuff like in gaming.
Yeah, the other thing that concerns me, and I wrote about this in my article as well, is when you consider the history of like violent force against groups like this, obviously less radical than the group in this game, and when violence is the core pillar of gameplay, like how do you use a critical lens that way? And I'm interested because I think it can be done. So I'm obviously not condemning the game outright. I mean, we don't know much about it really outside of what we've seen last week, but I think if you don't critically examine the things they have set up, then it's a total waste. Like, I think what's the point of it if it's just kind of like things are equally bad? Like,
It's just making light of the horrible shit that it's trying to raise. You know?
Right.
Like that. Don't do that.
Right.
So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it was one thing when Call of Duty 4 released. Remember, that was the first kind of shooter I'd played that was, it wasn't directly about Afghanistan, Iraq, and the conflicts overseas, but very clearly there's, talking about those things. And that was weird to be playing a shooter during the conflict that it depicted was still happening. And that was the first time I felt slightly uncomfortable.
Well, right. And I think being made uncomfortable is fantastic, and I love when media can do that. And I look for that, and I think that's valuable. And so I am intrigued by this because I think it has the potential to say something very prescient about things that are currently happening. I mean, this is very, very real and contemporary and modern.
Yeah, someone's talking about BioShock in the chat. This is not the same as BioShock playing with similar themes, right? This is like a representation of actual places and actual people.
During the behind closed doors demo that I went to, they specifically cited this 2016 event. It's very much a modern critique of the U.S., and it's something that I think can be very valuable and also very dangerous. Yeah. You're playing with fire.
Yeah, so it remains to be seen what they'll actually do with the themes that they've clearly kind of presented in the trailer and the vignettes and just their own presentations. But I do want to get into the gameplay side of things.
Right.
We're very familiar with the Far Cry open world formula at this point, assuming this will probably still follow on 3s and 4s and Primal and Blood Dragon's coattails. I do want to talk about like our thoughts on this kind of pastoral American landscape, Montana, like upper Midwestern kind of area. Rob, you saw the trailer and you're actually like, dang, and from like a gameplay perspective, this game kind of has me hyped more than I thought it would.
Yeah, like Far Cry games are fun, and I very fun. And I think for like 4, for instance, for me in that world exploring with the wildlife, and this could even go for Primal, it's good looking, but I think it wears a little thin when you start seeing the same stuff. Here, I'm hoping for like different types of towns. Very relatable or very much relatable environment, like street signs. And like my favorite shot was the baseball field. So that should be fun to explore and mess around in. And there's a tower, I guess.
It's also the first Far Cry game with airplanes.
Damn right.
Where you can like fly. And
Oh yeah, Rob, you noticed the airplanes right away.
That was was so funny because we were all in the office talking about the cover art, and Rob's just like, "Oh yeah, and those airplanes." And we were like, "Of course, he notices the airplanes."
Whenever we do any kind of trailer breakdown, I think we did one. Oh yeah, the Call of Duty one. I know my World War II airplanes very well, and I will speak about them whenever I see it. And so I think there's the one that you see for about, 4 frames, flies over what assumes to be one of the characters who is like, your plane go-to repairman, whatever it is you can imagine.
Is he the one putting the Gatling gun on the seaplane in the trailer?
Yeah. It looked like a World War II British Defiant plane that had like a ball. It was like one of the only planes that had like a ball turret in the back, which kind of strengthens the idea of this game is going to be the full campaign. Here it is. Well, there's another screenshot they released that had a better shot of it. They'll take their own approach on what the plane will look like. But what I'm getting at is, the co-op based of feature that we know of is that you can play the entire game with a buddy.
Yeah,
so you can have someone in the ball turret flying around.
Yeah.
For a past context, 3 had a separate co-op mode where you play through these more just basic shooter missions, and then 4 introduced co-op in just co-op, and I believe you could play through the whole game. No, there's specific fortress assault missions,
Right.
And you could use. It was fun because you could have one person flying that like gyrocopter, and then your partner having a grenade launcher in the other seat, which that was really fun. But yeah, this whole game can be co-op.
Or you could like lasso. It was pretty janky, but you could lasso the gyrocopter, and I could just like swing around, and you'd fly me into trees and stuff. Yeah.
We also, this wasn't in the trailer, but in the behind closed doors thing, there was a pitchfork assassination. That was interesting. It was just like you just can throw a pitchfork at somebody. Just rip. And then dogs. This game has dogs.
Yeah, these are apparently it's a huge thing. I remember 4 they kind of introduced that with the tiger when you had the Shangri-La dream drug-induced sequences. But now apparently dogs are a huge deal.
I like dogs. I feel like this was a super hard right from me being like, this game could be dangerous, but I like dogs a lot.
Well, do you know much about it? That system, is it like something where you have a dog companion the whole time?
It doesn't look like an entire. I think you can kind of like not summon them, but
Come to me, Pooch.
yeah, get
Theo,
them, do my
dog.
bidding. I'm not exactly sure. We just saw the dogs and we were like, wait, there's dogs, and they were like, there's dogs.
I'm willing to bet it's very similar to Primal that had. I think it was actually first.
That's
in
way
Blood,
more recent.
in Blood Dragon 2, right? Like, was that the one where
Yeah.
you basically could point and send your tiger?
But Primal is
Primal
much
was where
better.
you could tame an animal,
like a variety of animals.
yeah, and
then
ride
have
them
them ride with you.
Yeah. So I think that could be very much the same system.
It seemed similar to that, yeah. So
Can't we just take care of the dog and make sure it lives a long and happy life? Do we have to throw it into violence?
Paint a cross on its face like the cover.
oh no.
What if you I would just put I would paint like a middle finger on the side of the dog and then send him into battle. That'd be good.
It reminds me of like Fallout 3 where you get dog meat, right? Right. And I'm just like, he could die. If you brought him out in the field, he could die. You never get him back. And I remember just like, stay. You're not coming out with me. Just had him on that aircraft carrier in the locker just forever.
You just have to white fang him at the end.
Oh, God.
Just pretend
I
you hate
just want to protect every dog.
him. Yeah, I don't want to use those dogs. But what else is new in this? So I really want to talk about, in a post Breath of the Wild world, not to Pete Brown this whole thing and compare everything to Zelda, but in a post Breath of the Wild Horizon Zero Dawn year, Far Cry 5 will be releasing in February 28th of next year.
I
as of now.
believe so, yeah.
I'm curious if that formula will feel old by now, because Primal, the structure of it kind of did, right? But then the whole animal system they introduced and like how it was more survival focused, I liked. And I like that they stuck to its Stone Age setting. I think Far Cry Primal maybe didn't get enough attention because we were kind of getting burnt out on that formula. Yeah. I'm curious if 5 has enough space, like since Far Cry Primal, or if they could feel fresh.
It's very different, right? Zelda is a game where you're meant to just sort of get lost in the act of exploration. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem to be something they're going for with this. Yeah. So I think you can't really hold it to the same standard necessarily. Maybe you could look at Horizon Zero Dawn, but even then, the modern day placement of Far Cry 5 seems to just remove it so much from that conversation, right? Like, I think we're going to be dominated by the things we see and the tone of it all, maybe more than the actual gameplay, and that could make it feel fresh on its own.
Yeah, I would say, like, as far as Zelda goes, the biggest thing for me was like the verticality of it in an open world game. Was like, that's what I would like to see in more open world games. I don't need every open world game to be like Breath of the Wild. So I think there's still room for it. But I agree with Peter where it's like, I think for me at least, I think tackling certain narrative themes is what's going to set it apart. I
mean, they're certainly not pitching this as an open world game first and foremost.
Right.
They're pitching this as a game with a certain subject matter.
Right, exactly.
That's what they're leading with.
Exactly.
Here, so.
And so I know that, like, obviously there's gameplay stuff, like the weapons you have access to and being able to fly airplanes, like all of that is important, but it's not the key thing for me, which is a little different than you would expect for Far Cry. I think a lot of people just have a lot of fun with Far Cry. But again, they chose it, not me. So
I wonder what airplanes even have as far as value in this game. I'm going back to airplanes.
Well, it seems like all the weapons and the vehicles, a lot of them are like you said it was a World War II plane you saw in the sky. Is this presumably like maybe a lot of maybe veterans are involved in this conflict?
They did get to
Anything
take their
goes.
planes home with them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's part of the agreement.
Go to war, get a
Your last bombing run in Germany. You're like, fuck it, I'm going home, and you fly across the ocean.
Pretty sure they're using army surplus stuff.
That makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what are you doing with this plane? I mean, there's a bunch of forests and trees. I mean, a helicopter or gyrocopter, whatever it is, you can, VTOL, right? You can land.
Come on, guy.
It's gonna come into a forest. Like, is it traversal? I guess bombing runs. Do they say that bombing runs?
There
and
was
stuff?
shooting, like with turrets.
Strafing.
Strafe, sure.
Sure.
I don't know. I saw there were turret fire. That's not how you describe that.
Like,
But
if that's
you know what I mean.
That's a way how you liberate a town, right?
Yeah.
I think you keep mentioning Primal, and the more I think about Primal, the more I see it actually correlating along with the companion system. But like, in Primal, you could go hunting, bring back resources, and trade with people in the towns, right? Like that could be something as well. Because I think 4 didn't have much of that. I feel like you
3
were
and 4 had a lot of hunting, but it was mainly for upgrading your equipment.
just personally, like converting that into like inventory slots. Like I wonder if there's a stronger drive to trade it in for currency or something like that. Because there was a little bit of that in Primal, but yeah, ultimately I think where Primal fell short was just kind of a boring narrative.
Yeah.
So this is
It was
kind
mainly
of
just
got
context for what you were doing
right,
a little bit.
right.
While we're on the topic of Primal, I do want to talk about our favorite Far Cry games, because there have been a bunch now, and I think now that the franchise is big enough, we could talk about that.
It's so big.
It's so big.
So big.
It's so big and grandiose, dude. I went into my Richard Grieco impression
why
there
did
for a
you
second. So, hey, bro. No, just kidding. Do you guys have favorite Far Cries? There's Far Cry, there's Far Cry 2, there's 3, there's 4,
Yeah,
there's
list
5,
that for me.
there's Primal and Blood Dragon, Predator Instincts.
I'm not super I haven't played a ton of Far Cry.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna say Blood Dragon.
That's the
Blood
right
Dragon's
answer.
dope.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
right answer.
Let's
I mean,
let's not.
2 was pretty great.
2's
2 is amazing. Okay,
Pretty
2 is the best
great.
game ever. No, 2 is really
Pretty.
good, but that's after that I kind of fell off until Blood Dragon again.
Just love the 80s, man. Love the 80s.
Man, people with 80s nostalgia. I was never even alive during the 80s.
Neither was I. I just love the 80s.
It was a really good game. It was fun. It was more also like, it was such a weird. I'm so surprised that this became a thing. If
such
you
a
look into
video
creation
game,
behind it, yeah, but it's also just taking. This was back before Far Cry 4 came out, so this was after 3, releasing as a standalone 80s inspired retro kind of.
Yeah.
Like a RoboCop, Judge Dredd infused shooter.
It's a trendsetter.
A what?
A trendsetter.
Oh, yes. For what, the 80s throwback stuff?
For all the things, that followed.
Was this the
after
first
it.
one of the before that became a thing?
It kind of fell in line with that Kung Fury like short that came out, and I feel like that 1-2 punch kind of inspired a lot of people.
Yeah. There's like the story behind actually how this got off the ground is super interesting. I don't know, maybe Google it, but I forget where I read about a story about just like the Splinter team of Ubisoft that kind of went off to make this and said, what if we did this? And then people were like, that sounds insane. You might as well just try it. But yeah, and then obviously Primal, when Far Cry Primal got announced, we thought it was just another Blood Dragon kind of spin-off, standalone title, but no, it was an actual full game when it released last year at this point, 2016.
Wow, I thought it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like almost exactly a year ago. I think Far Cry 2 is my favorite. And it's tough because every time I recommend it to someone, I still think it's pretty worth checking out. If you played State of Decay, the ally system in that is very similar to what happens in Far Cry 2. You develop these relationships with these specific NPCs that eventually over the course of the campaign will come in this African landscape to save you when you're about to die, or come like pick you up in a car or help you with supplies, or just come, and then when they die, you're like, oh my God, that was awful, because I actually developed a connection with them. It also reminds me of, it's almost the opposite. Yeah. It's almost it's like the opposite of Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system.
Sure.
Obviously not as fleshed out because Shadow of Mordor was 2014. Far Cry 2 was years and years before. I think that it was a cool predecessor to that kind of State of Decay, Shadow of Mordor emergent narrative thing that you got out of it. And I cared about the NPCs, whereas 3, obviously, they're mainly quest givers. there for the story, for the plot. Far Cry 2 takes about like 8 hours to really get into the swing of things.
Yeah.
Because you have to like start establishing the black market up front. The first few missions, it's a hard game too, especially even compared to 3, where this tiger could attack out of nowhere. The grass could just light on fire and come at you. But this was hard because you were very ill-equipped when you first get into this landscape and you're trying to establish yourself here. But I know Jean-Luc really likes Far Cry 2 as well. Him and Joey, we put up a poll on GameSpot's Twitter to see which one they should play. I think it was last week, and people voted Far Cry 3, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But
2 was really cool when it came out as well, because the original Far Cry was just like a technically impressive like shooter for the most part.
Right.
It wasn't really a thing that had become a household name or like really stood out for anything beyond that. But then this was like, hey, guess what? We can tell an interesting story as well and make the gameplay part of that. I think that's why it was memorable for me.
yeah, also how they put a shooter into this open world, and I thought it would just be, like going to different places. I don't know whose gameplay this is.
I love that.
Forget it. Stupid hole.
Hello. It was cool to see how they implemented a shooter, or implemented an open world structure into a shooter with this kind of characterization. I really liked it, and it's worth going back to still, I think.
Yeah.
I think it hasn't aged too poorly. It is harder. It does take a while to get into.
Yeah,
but once you do.
That's good.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Oh,
it does.
good. Yeah.
Far Cry 3 was the one that released in 2012 and really, maybe it wasn't the breakout hit for the series, but it's definitely the one that kind of brought a lot more mass appeal to it.
Yeah.
It was December 2012, I believe. And that was when that really, that this open world kind of deciding whether to sneak up to this outpost or just go in guns blazing. And then you have these skill trees. I hate the character in this game.
roll my eyes
Minus
right
the flashbacks to the frat parties and the European, the Euro trip kind of clubbing
Spring
scene.
break.
Yeah. Was it something? Yeah, it was something like that. This game was great. And it still is, but this was the one that kind of established the slew of, Far Cry 4, Far Cry Primal, Blood Dragon, and then from what we've seen, it looks like 5 is going to be kind of following the same open world structure of, this cascading quest structure. You reactivate this radio tower, which shows you the NPCs in this area and the random challenges and quests you could do. Those unlock more, which, you come across a new hunting ground, which you can kill this animal to upgrade this piece of equipment, and then you can buy this weapon and add it to your loadout. And it was very good at leading you from one quest to the next without doing too many fetch quests, I thought. And the world itself was really fun to explore because there are a lot of these secrets hidden around. I forget what items you're actually searching for in this, but there are a lot of things. There were collectibles and things that seem kind of arbitrary, but yeah, this whole emergent gameplay kind of focus where, what was that? What was that? All right. Do you not like?
Oh, I thought, no. I'm sorry. I was coming at the gameplay. He shot a
thought he
dog.
killed a dog.
He shot a dog, and then he kept shooting. What I thought was the dog was an alligator. That was rude to me. Keep going.
Oh. The dogs have since switched sides since Far Cry 3.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you've got a cute dog in the new one. You don't have a pit bull or a bull mastiff or anything like that.
Dude, you watch your mouth. Pit bulls are cute as hell. I know. I'm defending pit bulls. While
So
they're
am
not
I.
here. I know.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
Pretty sure the dogs
They're
in
only ever
5
targets.
are also like
Wolves?
attack dogs. Anyway.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh.
No, you're not gonna get like a terrier out there attacking for
That'd
you.
be so dope. A chihuahua comes running at you.
Fifi, get over here. Lick my face.
Kisses.
Get in my purse.
Well, if it's anything like these, again, the system from Primal is you don't have to kill any of these dogs. You just toss it some hot meat, and then it's your companion.
Compagnon.
Some
Compagnon.
hot meat.
Dude, I can go for some. Far Cry Primal definitely seems like the one that might be leading to this wolf system or in 5. But yeah, Far Cry. Here we go. Primal. Primal, I think maybe, like I said, maybe people were burnt out on the structure by this time. I think when they first announced it, it wasn't clear that it was its own full game. I think I at least thought it was just a Stone Age Blood Dragon spinoff. I really like this game, and then they released that update like 6 months later. There was the survival mode, so at night more predators come out, and that's why
played that.
it's tough to recommend it now with everything else that's come out. But it was awesome. I mean, it was like like a lot of games, like Far Cry 4 released that DLC that made it harder, right? It was more of a survival mode, and this game you're managing resources so much because you don't have this machine gun that you could just take out anything with. You know, it's a bow, it's a spear, a club that you're trying to upgrade. Predators come out at night, so fire is important. Being the Stone Age, it makes sense thematically, I guess. But you're upgrading all these primitive weapons, and if the survival mode really gets rid of the HUD, and it also makes more predators, makes night even more dangerous. And I don't think you can fast travel either. I could be mistaken, but I didn't like to fast travel in these games if I could help it anyway.
It's crazy how much of a theme that was last year, right? I feel like every game was adding their like version of it.
Yeah, because I remember the first open world game that I guess like the most relevant thing I could think of, the first one was New Vegas, Fallout New Vegas that Obsidian did, and they had that hardcore mode. I think there's a separate name for it that's escaping me right now. Realism, I can't remember. And you actually had to manage your radiation much more and your food and your sleep to a much farther extent than the base game required. But yeah, Far Cry Primal focuses so much on hunting and the animal aspects. And then of course you encounter these different tribes with themes. Like one is just this brute tribe of kind of more Neanderthal characters. Another one just like uses fire as a weapon rather than just for making tools and whatnot and for food. But yeah, I really liked Primal. I reviewed it last year, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. Like I said, I think it was kind of overlooked. Maybe people were burnt out on this structure at that point, but I don't know how much you guys got to play it. Rob, you had a decent amount of fun.
I did. I had a lot of that. That's what I was kind of getting at. I just kind of got burnt out playing it specifically. I was just, I don't know. I feel like the landscape needed to be more diverse. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I just felt like I was seeing the same stuff, doing the same things.
And you needed robot dinosaurs, right?
Yeah.
I needed some damn robots.
Needed more robots.
And planes.
Spitfires.
They had like a cool hand glider that you can make in this.
Did they?
Done.
Oh, if they.
No.
Oh, okay.
If they.
Yeah, because I believe in Apex Penguin in the YouTube chat was saying it was hardcore mode in New Vegas. But I can't remember if in the base game you had to manage your cold, the temperature, and get warmer clothes. You did? That wasn't just the DLC? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that aspect.
That kind of stopped you from, because I think you needed to like get that crafting skill from a person, right?
Yeah.
I forget what they called them, but it was one of the blocks from getting you into the different parts of the map.
Yeah, I think more than any other Far Cry game, Far Cry Primal, the environment felt just as much of an enemy, as, the rest of the enemies did. But yeah, Far Cry 2 is my favorite Far Cry. To give a definitive answer. Your Blood Dragon?
Yeah.
Your Blood Dragon?
Yeah, it's like today. Yeah.
Do you have one? Favorite?
I keep thinking about Far Cry, the first one, and how I felt about that game. I thought it was a very neat game. Yeah, as far as like the the technical advancements of it and just like running around that island and stuff. Like I don't know, I remember like that, like definitely like finding a place of like as far as nostalgia goes. Like I remember that pretty well.
I remember I played, I think it was Far Cry Predator or Far Cry Instincts or Far Cry Predator Instincts. I don't know. It was the Wii title when the Wii was. But wasn't the first Far Cry much more of a shooter and less of a open world game? Yeah, that like when 2 came out, that was a pretty big departure from the first game. Yeah, I did not play much of the first Far Cry.
I think wasn't it also like inspired by another shooting game that came out before it?
What is happening?
And then that happened, and the plot threw me off a lot.
I'm curious, what were you saying?
There was like a couple of shooting games right before the original Far Cry, and I feel like the first Far Cry was sort of like inspired by those. They were very much direct shooters. I can't remember the name.
Here it is.
Inspired in what way? In its setting or its?
Its aesthetic and its style of shooting. Like Far Cry made it a more prominent game. God, it's not Soldier of Fortune.
You're not talking about Black, are you?
No.
Okay.
Way before Black.
Oh, gotcha.
It's strictly a PC game that I just can't remember now. That's going to bug me.
When did Crysis release?
I was about to say Crysis. Shit.
No, definitely not Crysis. No. I mean, the original Far Cry was 2003
or 4, right?
Yeah,
something early aughts.
God, it's killing me.
Gotcha. All right, well, yeah, man, I have not seen footage from the first Far Cry in a long time. Oh, there's Danny O'Dwyer up here playing.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, I guess that's our discussion of favorite Far Cries and Far Cry 5. And it's also our show. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's a pretty crazy, awesome giveaway this week. It's the Razer Blade 14-inch gaming laptop, which you said runs for like a couple $1,000 most of the time.
Yeah, usually they're not cheap. That's for sure.
Yeah. So if you do not follow GameSpot on Twitter, go follow us and retweet the giveaway tweet that Shiva, who runs our Twitter account, just put up earlier. And as opposed to later in the week, like we usually do, we'll select a winner randomly next week. I think we'll be announcing it on the lobby next week, but if not, it'll be around Wednesday-ish when you find out if you are the winner. So go do that because that's a pretty awesome prize.
And you have to follow us indefinitely because we'll be watching your account. And if you want to follow us, we're taking that laptop back.
I personally will come to your house and sneak in and take a laptop.
He'll need backup.
Don't want that.
But
You don't want that to happen.
It's true. Hey, Rob.
But anyway,
last Sunday. Came over to my house. Stood in the rain.
what are you guys working on this week? Rob, what are you working on? Were you just playing Titanfall 2 and saying screw work?
No, that's not true. But I am gonna play just a little more because I'm doing some gameplay.
That'll be up at like 7 tonight or something.
Yeah, definitely 7. And then it's Lava is just pre E3, man.
Callie, what about you?
Same. Reviewing ARMS.
Nice. Out of context, that's just such a weird thing to say.
I'm going around the office and just judging everyone's arms.
What would you give Rob's arms out of 10?
I haven't really done a full examination.
Do it right now, quick, on the
Just
spot.
I'm just telling everyone to work out more.
Don't get. Whoa! No!
Rob's been doing
She's
some
got a
curls
point,
in the
Rob.
office.
Doing a lot of this.
Raising the roof.
How you do? Yeah, so
my
I'm doing
God.
a
Do about
full
5 of those a day.
full sweep. So everybody get ready for that.
Word. Pete, you got Tekken 7, Friday the 13th.
Yep. Some other game with a big odd number.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I thought you were... Wait, is there a third one you're reviewing that has an odd number in it?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you're just...
No, I'm
Don't know
just
what
an
you're
idiot.
Cool. All right, and like I said, we'll be doing a lot of E3 coverage leading up to next week. E3 begins like a week from this weekend. Such a weird way to put it. June... What's the first?
It begins for us.
For us next week,
We all-
later next week. But
we started
the
arriving
first
later.
conference is it
fast.
Bethesda? The Saturday before
The
everything starts?
11th.
The
would
11th?
be
EA is the first conference.
Right.
Thank you, Eric
EA
Tay.
Sports.
It's in the game. And then, like we'll have Bethesda, Ubisoft, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. We will be covering all of them. We'll be doing pre-shows for them. Like I said, next week in the lobby, our UK and Australia crews will be in the San Francisco office. So we'll try to get as many of them on as possible, if not all of them. And we will have a lot of other stuff. I do have one more thing I want you to go watch. As of today, we started a 3-part behind-the-scenes series on Arcane Studios. Everything from Dishonored to Dishonored 2 to Prey to their early stuff back in like 2000 when they first founded, when they were just a team of 4 people. If you're fans of those games or if you just have an interest in video game history in general, we also tracked down Richard Garriott and Warren Spector, interviewed them to go back to the origins of Arcane Studio, no pun intended, because they worked at Origin Systems and Looking Glass Studios back in the day. It's actually really cool, I guess, history lesson in where games are today, or a lot of games are going today in terms of immersive sims and emergent gameplay. If you really liked Breath of the Wild, if you like Metal Gear Solid 5, kind of in that vein of emergent gameplay, to get broader, we talk about how that style of game, or maybe something that kind of influenced those games, started. So go check that out. It's called Failure to Fame, How Dishonored Saved Arcane Studios. Second episode will be up tomorrow. Third will be up Friday. Really proud of all the work that's gone into those throughout the editing and the shooting process. We went down to Austin and got to interview some really intelligent, creative, interesting people. So go check that out. It's on our YouTube channel, GameSpot.
Yeah, if I could add anything to that, is that they really are great pieces, or at least so far the first one I saw. You guys were able to put a lot of time into it. I think that has really paid off. So I really do recommend it. They're very well made.
Cool. Yeah, go check that out. And as always, thanks to Eric Tay, Jean-Luc Seipke, and Richard Lee in the back for producing this show. Thank you, everyone, for joining in the YouTube chat, Twitch chat, on GameSpot. We will be back, as always, next week. We will have the entire GameSpot international crew here in San Francisco. We're really excited to talk about what we're excited for personally for E3, so we will see you then.